Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I think you guys can. I'm trying to get things organized here. Sorry if you hear some extra sounds going on. I wasn't sure if I was live or not, so I had to listen on my own phone. But welcome, guys. Welcome. I'll get an intro song soon. Sorry if that was a little bit of a rough walk-in intro into the show. I'm getting an intro soon, I swear. I'm waiting for my engineer, producer / brother to help me out and get me an intro song here. But welcome, guys, to a rebranded show. It's been a while since I've been live on the Bench Sports app. It's been a couple of weeks because I was doing some rebranding. For those who don't know, my show before was called Out the Gym NBA Talk, and it kind of handicapped me to talk about the NBA only. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I love the NBA, and I love talking about basketball. But the problem I had over time was, you know what? I actually really love talking about the NFL. And it's very difficult for me to talk about sports for a full hour without mentioning the NFL, what's going on in the NFL world, because the NFL is such a big part of my sports consuming experience. I love the NFL. It's probably one of my favorite sports to watch, if not my favorite sport to watch. Now, in terms of playing a sport and coaching and knowing more about a sport, I definitely lean towards basketball in that sense. But I love watching the NFL. Who doesn't love watching the NFL? All you sports fans out there know what I'm talking about. But welcome to my new show. If you guys are listening live on the Bench Sports app or anywhere else later, obviously you can see a new logo. My profile picture should be like me, cartoonized. I think on YouTube I might have a little bit of an intro as well, where you could see my animated self out there, which should be pretty cool. And then also, if you guys go over to the Bench Sports app, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll explain right now. But if you go over to the Bench Sports app, I should have a new cover art as well for my show, as well as my Apple Podcast and SoundCloud cover art. So I'm pretty excited about this. My new show is called Top of the Morning. If I have not talked about this, is Top of the Morning Sports Talk with Joshua Giron. I am your host, Joshua Giron. You guys can call me Joshh Gee, and that's also where you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. If you guys want to go follow me over there on any of those social medias, let me know. Hit me up. Definitely follow me on social media, because the biggest thing about following me on social media is it'll allow you guys to hit me up and contact me if you guys want to tell me anything about, hey, Josh, don't forget to talk about this week, or whatever it is, upcoming topics to discuss. Definitely shoot a DM my way. I'll give you guys a shout out. And also, pretty soon, I'm going to go back to doing some Q&A stuff on Fridays. I used to have a little segment of my show called NBA Q&A Wednesdays. I'm going to do now Q&A Fridays. It's going to be just overall Q&A. You guys ask me questions about the NFL or the NBA. We'll definitely discuss the questions you guys have here on the show. So all that stuff is going to be later in the show. For this week's show, we're going to kind of go over a lot of NBA and NFL news stories, talk about my opinion on these stories, and then we're going to talk about some NBA, if you will, way too early predictions of some NBA contenders. We'll talk about that later for sure on the show. We're also going to talk about the NFL schedule this upcoming week. I'll tell you guys all about who I think is going to win at least every single game, and talk about why that team will win the game. But yeah, if you guys are not listening live on the Bench Sports app, you're watching on YouTube later, you're listening on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, wherever, download the Bench Sports app and listen live. Do me that favor. If you guys go over to my Instagram or Twitter, go to my link tree in the bio. You guys have an iOS download link. If you have an Apple phone or any iOS device, you guys can go ahead and click on the iOS link. It'll take you to an app to download. It's a free app, the Bench Sports app. You guys download the app, open the app, listen to me live every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, or 7 days a week sports talk all over the country. We got guys talking about the NFL, MLB, NHL, and all these other great sports topics and sports in general to talk about, right? For sure, 7 days a week. Download the app. If you guys don't have an iOS device, it's okay. You go to the link as well. It'll tell you non-iOS user link. You click on the link, you open it to a website, you press play, it'll have you listening to live sports talk 7 days a week, just like the app would. So, enough of that stuff. I know it's a big, long intro I have to talk about. I got to get the little details out the way. But on today's show, guys, we are going to be talking about some breaking news in the NFL this morning. The Eagles have finally found a trade partner, the Philadelphia Eagles, that is, have finally found a trade partner for tight end Zach Ertz, where Ertz is going, what it means for both teams and everybody involved, what it means for Ertz, what it means for the Eagles. We're going to talk about that in a bit. We also going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa, as he's reportedly may possibly start this Sunday. Can Tua turn Miami around. They've lost 4 straight games since Tua's been injured. He got injured in their second game of the week, and they lost 40-0 to the Buffalo Bills. Can Tua be the reason why this team kind of turns it around a little bit at least? We will have to wait and see, and we'll talk about that, of course, here on the show. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns. They've designated receiver Jarvis Landry from IR, but I'm going to tell you guys why, as stacked as this Cleveland Browns team is, why I still don't trust them, why I still don't believe in the Cleveland Browns when it's all said and done. We'll talk about that later for sure. We are also going to talk about the biggest story of the week, the biggest story of the last couple of weeks. Jon Gruden is out as the Raiders head coach. We're going to talk about the controversy a little bit and talk about the situation and in some capacity talk about what's been going on around that right now that Jon Gruden is out and this kind of situation has happened. If you guys don't know, we'll definitely go into detail later. We're going to talk about what other people now are coming out and saying about Jon Gruden. We'll see how we feel about that, and we'll talk about that in a bit for sure. We're going to, like I said earlier, predict the NFL winners for this upcoming week. And then in the NBA world, we're going to talk about some preseason wrapping up. We'll talk about how the NBA has kind of begun to act like the NFL and treat preseason the same way the NFL does. We'll talk about that and see how I feel about it. We are also going to talk about Ben Simmons, and he surprises everyone, including Philadelphia. He is in Philadelphia right now after moving all of his stuff out of his house in Philadelphia. He is there in Philly now, getting COVID tested and kind of getting ready to make his return to work, if you will. We'll talk about what that means for the trade, what it means for Philly, what it means for Ben Simmons, what it could mean for the entire situation. We're going to talk about the top 3 contenders in each conference for sure. But first, before we get into all that good stuff, a long-winded intro to the first episode of Top of the Morning to everybody. I'm not Irish, but I'm going to say that probably a lot on the show because that's what the show's called. First, we have to talk about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, for those who don't know, is in a very interesting situation now. The NBA is actually 98% vaccinated. For those who haven't, been keeping up with that stuff, the NBA is 98% vaccinated. There is roughly, according to Shams Charania, a reporter at The Athletic, who's kind of a big-time NBA reporter, talks a lot about the NBA news, the NBA world. He is right up there next to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN in terms of reporting NBA news and things like that. And Shams Charania talked about that there is roughly a pool of about 20 or so players who are not vaccinated in the NBA, which is really remarkable. I think for the NBA, it really allows the NBA to not have much of a headache in terms of dealing with players who are not vaccinated. And, at the end of the day, it is just that. It is kind of a headache for the NBA. And whatever side you're on this whole now, what seems like a political conversation about being vaccinated, at the end of the day, the NBA is a business, and they're trying to figure out how to get their business rolling without dealing with these, players who are not vaccinated, without dealing with the mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, and everything like that. It would be a lot easier for, I think, everyone involved if everyone was vaccinated, but it would also be a lot easier in the NBA specifically if everyone in the NBA was vaccinated. But the NBA, has not made it official that you need to get vaccinated. They have not told their players that's what they need to do. It's not something they are forcing their players to do. However, there are certain cities, counties, etc. in America that are having mandates, vaccine mandates, COVID testing mandates, things of that nature. And that is why this entire controversy has kind of been at the top of everybody's mind right now, right? So Kyrie has taken the stance of not getting vaccinated. Now, it's not really a stance. It's more of just him not wanting to get vaccinated. And I think it's been a very interesting conversation. Very interesting to see everybody kind of talk about this entire conversation ultimately, because we're now seeing people taking the political side of things and kind of being like, well, he should be vaccinated and this whole thing is dumb and Kyrie Irving needs to move on, blah, blah, whatever. I think people need to understand this. A lot of anger and frustration from NBA fans specifically, I think, when it comes to Kyrie Irving is that this is not just a vaccine thing. Like, for those who haven't been following the NBA, haven't been following Kyrie Irving that closely, or haven't really been paying attention or don't care, Kyrie Irving has had a lot of off the court, not related to basketball, things going on. And I'm not going to say whether or not they are bad things, whether or not they are things that shouldn't happen. What I'm going to say is there are things that normally in the NBA we don't see happening often with players, right? Especially superstar players of Kyrie Irving's caliber. Now, Kyrie Irving has had situations where, you know, he had issues in Boston, had issues in Cleveland. Obviously, leaves Cleveland, goes to Boston. In Boston, has a couple of off-the-court things going on, personal days going on. Maybe some people saying that maybe the Celtics were better without him, things like that going on. And then he ends up moving on, going to the Brooklyn Nets, having an okay first season, no really crazy issues going on there. But then a lot of his personal beliefs, leak out. The whole flat earth thing was a thing for a while. Kyrie Irving was reportedly, I think, self-proclaimed a flat earther. And all these things that have kind of, I think, frustrated NBA fans, especially when you go into the talks of him having these personal days, right? When he's in Brooklyn, he's taking personal days off, reportedly, where he says, I'm going to take a day off. I'm not really feeling it's like a personal thing. And then he goes out and he's in the middle of the NBA season going to his sister's birthday party in the middle of a pandemic, right? Where he's not vaccinated, there's people not wearing masks, there's hundreds of people there at a party. And so those things have kind of happened over the last couple of years with Kyrie Irving. Other things have happened, of course, but those are kind of the things top of mind that have happened with Kyrie Irving. So I think for NBA fans that are attacking him or NBA fans that are frustrated, people need to understand that's part of it, right? It's not just a vaccine mandate. A lot of this has to do with Kyrie and who he's been for the past couple of seasons, kind of an annoyance. And I don't mean to disrespect Kyrie Irving in any I don't want to be disrespectful here. But what I am saying is, as an NBA fan who just wants to watch basketball, and that's kind of where I'm at, wants to watch basketball, wants to see the best players play basketball, I am not someone sitting here saying just play basketball and stop talking about things off the court. But I do, to some extent, want you to just play basketball. You know, I want players to play basketball. You want to have your personal things going on off the court, that you can do what you want to do. Press conferences, you want to say what you want to say what you want to say, do what you want to do. But ultimately play the games. Ultimately figure out ways to play basketball, because that's kind of why I'm paying attention to what Kyrie Irving is doing as a person, because I like him as a basketball player. I think the NBA is better with a player like Kyrie Irving in it. The NBA is better without this controversy, right? When I'm going to watch the NBA, I don't want to talk about vaccine mandates and what it means and personal opinions and politics, and I don't want to talk about that stuff. I want to watch basketball. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely someone who's okay with, again, players saying things in press, because when I watch a basketball game, like, how many of you guys watch a game and actually stay and watch the press conference and stuff? I don't really watch the press conferences. I don't really sit there and wait around to see what players are doing off the court. Watch them play basketball, whatever personal stance they want to take off the court, I really don't mind. But figure out a way to be on the court. You know what I mean? You could talk about what you want to talk about, say what you want to say. That's where my stance. But I ultimately just want to see you on the court. And that's what it is with Kyrie Irving for me. I want to see him on the court. I want to see him play basketball. That's where I want him playing. And if there's off the court issues going on while he's playing, that's okay. But ultimately, just figure out how you can get on the court. And that's my thing with Kyrie Irving. And right now, to be fair to Kyrie, it's not really the NBA doing this, right? It's not really the NBA telling him what he has to do. It's not really the anybody really forcing Kyrie to do what he doesn't want to do. What it is the city of New York right now has a mandate where if you're going to have a large sporting event, a large venue event with a lot of people, you need to either be vaccinated or COVID tested. And so this is where I'm very confused on this situation. I don't understand why we can't just go through the last season, right, for example, of the NBA, couple of seasons. We've had a situation where players are just kind of constantly getting tested, constantly being careful, wearing masks, and the players who are not vaccinated, that's kind of the process they're going through. So I'm kind of confused as to why there isn't a situation where Kyrie Irving can just get tested. Now, if somebody knows the answer to that, definitely let me know. Hit me up. Because my thought process is, why not just test him a bunch every single day? Rapid result tests or whatever. The most accurate test you can get as quickly as possible. Do that one. And just kind of have that happen every single day before Kyrie gets to go into practice. Don't do the whole thing where he goes into a game and you take him out at halftime because the results come back at halftime. I don't like when that happens in professional sports. So definitely figure out a way to test them, because I think that's a way you can get into sporting events and arenas in the city of New York and the city of San Francisco. Those are two major cities right now that are having these kind of vaccine testing mandates. I'm confused onto why that's not going on. Maybe it's the whole. There's details obviously I'm missing here, I think. And so I would say that could have been an alternative. But right now, what's happening is because of the city mandates, Kyrie obviously could not play games. So the team, the Brooklyn Nets, have decided to not have Kyrie participate at all. They were allowed to let him practice by the city of New York because it's like a personal office building thing. But they decided there's no point because, you got to understand basketball-wise, Kyrie Irving, if he's playing in practice with the starters and then all of a sudden you go to the games, he's not playing, it's going to throw the team off, rhythm, chemistry, all that good stuff. So it kind of a made sense move on Brooklyn. But I think Brooklyn's frustrated. I think a lot of people involved with this situation are frustrated because, it's just a lot easier if Kyrie Irving does something as simple as get vaccinated. But for everybody, it's not as simple. I think we got to understand that. And it's kind of gotten lost in the sauce, if you will, lost in the whole mix of everything that at the end of the day, in my opinion, yes, Kyrie has been a headache. Yes, Kyrie has been not just a anti-vaccine mandate, as he's calling himself, person. He's not just done that. He's done other things in his career off the court. But my thing is, I'm not going to judge him for all those things he's done in the past. With this specific situation, I think Kyrie has a right to not get vaccinated if he doesn't want to. And if the Brooklyn Nets decide to trade him, then that's what it is, and we'll see if that ends up coming through fruition. So yeah, I'm just kind of in the situation where I think let Kyrie feel the way he wants to feel, And is it frustrating? Look, in the country in general, if everyone could get vaccinated, that'd be dope. But that's not what it is. We can't really force these people, especially grown adults, to take this vaccine. So let's chill on Kyrie a little bit. Let's just stop talking about it so much. I'm not angry at Kyrie Irving. I'm a little bit frustrated that we're going to lose an NBA superstar. As a fan, as a fan of Kyrie, I'm a fan of Kyrie, the basketball player. And, I don't know Kyrie personally on a personal level, obviously. So, I'm a fan of him as a player. I want to see him play. I want to see all the best players in the NBA play. And that's kind of where I'm focused on. His personal decisions are his personal decisions. He's going to leave roughly $16 million on the table by taking a stance, and so that's kind of where it's at right now. Let Kyrie do his thing. Let's see what happens. But ultimately, it's a rough situation. It's a very complicated situation. I think people are kind of making it simple, like, oh, we'll just get the vaccine. Like, I'm someone who took the vaccine, and I was nervous about it beforehand. You know what I mean? So I think everyone has to be able to make that decision on their own, and we need to allow that to happen. And if Kyrie decides not to play, then Kyrie decides not to play. And it's really not that much of a freak out situation. Jay Williams, for those who don't know, is a guy who's kind of been helping Kyrie out a little bit on social media in terms of like helping out his side and saying, hey, everybody chill on it. Jay Williams came out and was saying that Kyrie's getting death threats. You know what I mean? So like, let's chill on this situation. And I agree. Okay, it's really, is it serious? For sure, the vaccine is serious. The pandemic is serious. People are dying. And I understand that it's a sensitive topic for a lot of people to talk about. But in terms of making a grown adult take a vaccine, at the end of the day, in the country that we live in, it's allowed to kind of allow people to have their own opinions and have their own thought process on things. And that's what it is. Now, we kind of have to leave it at that. As hard as it is, as hard as it's going to be for the pandemic to end without everyone being vaccinated, if someone does not want to get vaccinated, I think we have to move away from trying to force people, because it's only going to make things worse, in my opinion. You start forcing people. The reason why people are iffy about the vaccine is because it's trying to be forced. It's so weird, And so I think that's why it's only going to make it worse if you try to force these people. So with Kyrie, I don't know if I really gave any full thoughts on it. I just think, look, let's hope Kyrie can return to basketball as soon as possible. And that's kind of what my hope is, and that's where I'm focused on. In terms of him getting vaccinated or not, if he wants to get vaccinated, that's his choice. If he doesn't, then he'll wait for the mandates to lift, and that's kind of where we're sitting. Moving on from Kyrie Irving, let's talk about some other big stuff going on in the NBA. Ben Simmons, he is now officially in Philadelphia, getting ready to start going back to work, literally physically being back to work, taking COVID tests to make sure he's cleared to play and practice. Is he going to go to practice? Is he going to go to preseason games? Is he going to talk to anybody? Because, for those who don't know, his teammates reached out to him, tried to go meet him in Los Angeles, over here in LA, is where he's living right now. He tried to come meet him here to convince him to come back. He told everyone, don't come see me. I don't want to come see anybody. I believe the front office is still not really spoken to Ben Simmons much. And so it is a very weird, tricky situation going on in Philadelphia right now. I didn't expect Ben Simmons to be there at all this season. I thought they were going to either wait until the trade deadline to trade him, while Ben Simmons just sits at home and works out every single day and watches basketball from a couch while losing millions and millions of dollars. But that is not what's happening. Ben Simmons is now in the building in Philadelphia. So what does this mean for the trade rumors? You guys hit me up on social media. Let me know what you guys think. My opinions are that Ben Simmons is still going to figure out a way to get traded from Philadelphia. But there is a possibility we still see him play 1 or 2 more games in a Philadelphia uniform, because it is completely possible that Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, the GM and president of basketball operations over there in Philadelphia, maybe are talking to Rich Paul, Ben Simmons' agent, talking to Ben Simmons, or through Rich Paul talking to Ben Simmons, and then know this: hey, if you come back to play for us and you play well, and you show everyone you can shoot a little bit, and you show everyone you're not afraid to drop 30-point triple-doubles or whatever it is that Ben Simmons is going to end up doing, it will be a lot easier for everyone involved to trade you. We get more value. You are able to go to a team you more likely want to go to, because right now, Ben Simmons' value is at an all-time low. Not only is he actively saying, hey, I want to be traded from this team, not only is he coming out publicly and kind of made this stance that he doesn't want to play in Philadelphia anymore, which completely lowers his trade value. Why? If you're a team who wants to trade for Simmons, why would you give anything of value when you say, well, he really wants to be out, and he's told everybody that? So there's really no reason for me to give up any first-round picks or any star players for Ben Simmons. I'll give you either a first-round pick or another star in return, but that's kind of where it's going to sit right now. His trade value is at all-time low because he's actively seeking to trade, but also because the last time we saw Ben Simmons play basketball, he was not very good. He was passing up the ball in the fourth quarter, literally just physically not being able to shoot the basketball in the fourth quarter in playoff games that were huge games for the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's the last time we saw him. So really, his trade value is at the lowest it can be at this point. Teams have to see Ben Simmons play. Teams still have to go and see, hey, is Ben Simmons going to be a player who can get over his fear of shooting? Is he a player who can get his confidence back? Is he a player who can give us 20, 10, and 10 a game or something in that range? 15, 8, and 8, whatever you want to get from Ben Simmons, and still be that lockdown defender. Can he still do that? I have to see it. If I'm going to trade for Simmons, I got to go out there and see it. Now, I've thrown a couple of teams and options out there, and I've been called crazy for it. Say what you want about the Denver Nuggets. Say what you want about Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon. I think both of those guys are good players. I think they're fine. They're not superstar players. They're getting paid quite a bit of money. But why not take a couple of younger, kind of youngish guys from your team, Denver? You guys paid Aaron Gordon. You paid Michael Porter. A little bit too much, in my opinion. Why not see what you could do? Pair those two. Get a trade for Ben Simmons. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, I keep thinking Kyler Murray at the top of my head. But Jamal Murray, he's a superstar. He's a stud. He's a point guard. Why are you going to trade for a point guard? Well, I think Jamal Murray is best off the ball. I think he's a good on-the-ball scorer. Don't get me wrong. But I think, now I don't want to say he's the best off the ball, but I'm going to say he is very capable of playing off ball. He is very capable of being able to allow a point guard to set him up. And I think, yes, Jamal Murray is a point guard, but he's kind of a score-first point guard. Ben Simmons is a pass-first point guard. You have a 6'8", 6'9" Ben Simmons play your point. You're allowed to lose a little bit of size, let Jamal Murray play some shooting guard for you. And then you have this whole new offense of Ben Simmons, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic still on your roster while losing Michael Porter Jr., yes, and losing Aaron Gordon. Yes, it hurts. Did Aaron Gordon really add this crazy new dynamic to your team last season? I don't think so. No disrespect to Aaron Gordon. I just think if you're the Denver Nuggets, you have not won yet, and you don't have that big of a window to win games. You've been a team who's been kind of hanging around that third seed for a while, never really improving. You got to go all in and try to win a chip with this window with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Why not go all in, make a move, go get Ben Simmons, see what Ben Simmons could do? You don't need Ben Simmons to shoot and score when you have Jokic who's going to go to work down low, and you have Jamal Murray who's more than willing to take up Ben Simmons' shots. why not go ahead and call up Denver? Denver, why not call up Philly and see if you can make that work? Now, if you're Philadelphia, do you really want Aaron Gordon to be your 4, Tobias Harris to be your 3, and then Michael Porter Jr. to run the point for you? I don't really know if that's the best case scenario. I know Michael Porter Jr. has played point guard in his high school days. When I used to watch him a little bit, he didn't play much in college, but maybe played a little bit of point forward in college. Can Michael Porter Jr. do that for you? That's a big question. Can he play point guard for you? That's definitely a question mark. But I'm just saying, I think that's an interesting little route you could take if you're Philadelphia. It's different. It's new. It's not something that's really ideal, I don't think. But at this point in time, you're not going to get an ideal trade. Just try to get the most value in return as possible. Get the most value in return as possible. If you're Philadelphia, why not call up Denver? Denver, why not call up Philly? Let's see if you can make that work. Now, if neither team wants to trade those guys, I understand. But I'm just saying that's an interesting perspective. I like to see that trade go down. A lot of trades, a lot of places that Ben Simmons can go. You guys hit me up on social media at Josh__G, at JOSHH__GEE. Hit me up. Let me know. On Instagram or Twitter, just send me a DM. Let me know, hey, Josh, I think Ben Simmons is going here. If you guys are right, I'll give you a crazy shout out. That's all I can really give you right now. I don't have any money to give you. I could just give you a little cookie and a clap, a little pat on the back, if you will. Yeah, so what does this mean? I don't know. With Ben Simmons, I still think he's going to get traded. Will he play in Philadelphia at all? I think there's definitely a chance, but I still want to put my money on that he does not play a game for Philly. He's just there to work out in their facilities, to be a part of their team, and kind of take these personal days of just working out and then not playing with the team. That's definitely probably likely, but I think still possible we see Ben Simmons play a couple of games for Philadelphia to try to up his trade value before Philly ultimately ends up moving on and sending him to a new team. Moving on from that, preseason is wrapping up. The NBA schedule, for those who are interested in watching some preseason games still, today, Pacific Standard Time. That is the time zone I am in, so that's the time zone I'll tell you guys the games for. Celtics Heat today at 3:30 p.m. for those who want to go ahead and watch that game. Sixers Pistons today at 4. Preseason game going on there. Cleveland, Indiana, they have a game today at 4 p.m. Washington Wizards and the New York Knicks, they have a game today at 4:30 p.m. And then we have Mavericks Bucks 5 p.m. today. Grizzlies, Bulls, 5 p.m. today. The Bulls are very, you got to watch that team. If you guys have not watched the Chicago Bulls yet, watch. We already knew this because the Chicago Bulls are the Chicago Bulls, and they have Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and Alex Caruso. They're going to be an exciting team to watch. Check them out today, 5 p.m. See if all those guys get some run time today in their preseason game. Then we have the Rockets and Spurs today, 5:30 p.m. And then last but not least, the last preseason game of the season, we have the Trailblazers versus the Golden State Warriors. That is tonight at 7 p.m. And then the NBA season will be upon us. October 19th is the first official day for the NBA season. We have the Brooklyn Nets facing off against the Milwaukee Bucks in Milwaukee at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. That is Tuesday, October 19th. And then opening night, again, we have the Golden State Warriors versus the Los Angeles Lakers, 7 p.m. Pacific time. Those are your opening night games for this upcoming week. Just 4 days away from NBA season starting up. So a lot to look out for, look into. I did want to discuss some of my top contenders really quick for the NBA. In the Eastern Conference, I'm going to go ahead and say the 3 biggest contenders for a championship this season, Eastern Conference. I'm going to say the Brooklyn Nets are number 1, especially if they're able to get Kyrie Irving back on their roster at some point. But even without Kyrie Irving, honestly, James Harden and Kevin Durant is enough to put them in that favorite conversation out East. We also have the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champ Milwaukee Bucks. They are also a top contender. I'm going to put them at number 2 for the top contenders in the Eastern Conference. And at number 3, probably the most difficult team to call here, as I'm looking at the Eastern Conference list of teams, I'm actually going to say the number 3 contender. It just really depends on what the Sixers do with Simmons, because if the Sixers end up having Simmons, they're probably number 3. New York Knicks, I don't think they're there yet, although they added some nice pieces. Chicago Bulls, they're good, but are they that good? I'm going to say the third team that's contending out east, as much as I like the Miami Heat, as much as I think Boston could be still okay, as much as I think Chicago is going to be good, I think right now the team that I feel the best about in the Eastern Conference is the Atlanta Hawks being the third best team. I know it's crazy. They're very young. They haven't done it really. But last season we saw, maybe this is recency bias, but last season we saw the Atlanta Hawks go to battle against the Philadelphia 76ers with Ben Simmons on that roster. They beat the Sixers in a 7-game series, if I'm not mistaken. Then they went off to face Milwaukee, won a couple of games, challenged the eventual NBA champ last season. I think Trae Young is just that good. He could help take this team to compete for a championship. Now, let's be real here. It's between Milwaukee and Brooklyn. The rest of the Eastern Conference, I don't really trust. Do you trust the Boston Celtics? Do you trust the Miami Heat to compete for a championship for you? Indiana Pacers, I don't think they're really there, even though they have a new coach at Rick Carlisle. New York Knicks, I don't really see them making it work either. Toronto Raptors are kind of in a rebuild at this point. I don't think any of those teams are really competing for a championship. I'm going to go ahead and say the Hawks are the third team, but ultimately it's between the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks for that championship out east. That is my prediction for the Eastern Conference. For the Western Conference, it should be a little bit easier. I have the Los Angeles Lakers as the number one team out west. I just think they are too stacked in terms of talent. Yes, preseason has happened. Russell Westbrook has looked kind of messy. The whole team in general hasn't really been winning many preseason games or any preseason games. But with that being said, it's LeBron James. It's Anthony Davis. Bare minimum, that enough alone makes them the favorites. Just like out east, we have the James Harden, KD makes them the favorites. Older LeBron, whatever you want to say about AD, either way, with them being on the same team, they are the number one team out west. You add Russell Westbrook, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, all future Hall of Famers, along with some other good players like DeAndre Jordan and Taylor Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk. They got a lot of talent on this roster. The Lakers are the favorite out west. I'm going to go ahead and say my number one team is the Lakers. I'm going to go ahead and say the number two team out west. If healthy, I might actually throw the Golden State Warriors at number two. Now, this may be crazy because the Warriors have been not that great in a while. But with Klay Thompson being back, being healthy, getting some run over the last couple of months, I think he will be back in shape. He'll look better. He'll be better. The team will play well with Steph, Klay, and Dre being their top three guys again. And I think they have enough role players around them to be a favorite out there. Now, I could be completely wrong on this. The Warriors can completely flop and be a 7th or 8th seed for sure in the West. But ultimately, that's my number two team that I trust the most because it's Klay, Steph, and Dre. I just can't bet against that team if they're healthy. And I'm going to go ahead to the number three team is the Denver Nuggets. I'll throw the Denver Nuggets out there. Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets. That may be ugly for a lot of you guys out there. I just don't really trust what the Utah Jazz are doing out there, really. I like the Utah Jazz. I like Donovan Mitchell. I like Rudy Gobert. But for some reason, I don't think they have enough to make it out there in the Western Conference. The Golden State Warriors, I just like it a little bit more. Even though they have a lot of young talent there, I like them a little more than that. The Clippers, Kawhi Leonard's out. I don't really know if you can call them a contender because Kawhi Leonard will be gone for a majority of the season, but they are in the conversation to be contenders. The Phoenix Suns, who just went to the finals last season, also are in conversation to compete. The Dallas Mavericks are a great team also out west. So a lot of good teams for sure out west that could compete for it. I'm going to go ahead and say Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets. That could change throughout the season. That will change throughout the season for sure. And I'll admit when I'm wrong. Don't worry, I will admit when I'm wrong. And I'm wrong a lot. Don't worry. But moving on from that, moving on from the NBA, let's go back into the NFL world. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit congested. I think it's just like dusty in here and stuff. And it's just also, it's winter, man. I mean, not winter. It is winter. It's winter now. It's fall, but it's almost winter. Shout out to everyone out. If you're out here in LA, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's been frustrating to deal with. You wake up, it's freezing cold. You got to throw a hoodie on. Your nose is stuffed. You got a little bit of, you're coughing a bit, whatever it is. And then you go outside with a hoodie, and then it's 11 a.m. and it's warm enough to take the hoodie off. So a little frustrating for sure, that kind of middle range, average weather, if you will. But it is what it is. We'll survive for sure. Going into the NFL news, talking about the NFL, what's going on in the NFL. Breaking news this morning. The Philadelphia Eagles have finally found a trade partner for tight end Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is now making his way to the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, the Cardinals add another weapon. Say what you want about Zach Ertz. Say what you want about he's washed, he's old, whatever. Zach Ertz is only being not as good of a player because of his quarterback play, in my opinion. Not really connect. When you have a connection with your quarterback, it's just not really going to work. Now, will he immediately have a connection with Kyler Murray? I don't know. Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray, as much as Kyler Murray is way better than Jalen Hurts, they are similar players, right? They're not necessarily they could throw the football a little bit, they can run the football a little bit, and for some reason, Ertz wasn't really connecting with Jalen Hurts. So I don't know if this is automatically going to work. I think, yes, he's an option for you. It's a big tight end up the middle. He's going to be more of a safety blanket now at this point in his career. Now, I don't think he's bad or he's not as good as he used to be. I just think right now he's not connecting with the quarterback and going to a stacked team that has AJ Green on one side, DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. They have decent running back play as well with Chase Edmonds and James Conner. With all that being said, Kyler Murray with his running ability, I think he is going to mix in Zach Ertz in the offense, but it's not going to be a dominant top of the league again Zach Ertz thing. But I think he'll be fine, catch a couple of touchdowns throughout the rest of the season. I think this is a nice addition for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals, who are already 5-0 still. And it helps Zach Ertz kind of revitalize his excitement, revitalize his career a bit. He's been kind of down about the way Philly, what's been going down in Philly the past couple years. Now, hey, Zach Ertz, you're here now on a competitive team in Arizona, warmer weather. I think they play in a dome, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go ahead, have a good time, play with this already 5-0 team, see if you guys can compete for a Super Bowl spot. It's going to be interesting to see what Arizona Cardinals do. I think it's going to be good for Zach Ertz to be in a new place. In terms of Philly, they're getting a 5th-round pick along with the cornerback. Nothing really crazy there. They just try to move on from Zach Ertz at this point. Dallas Goedert is their number 1 tight end. So, eventually you got to move on and part ways with Zach Ertz. You're not going to give him another contract, which is what he wanted. So why not move on? Send him for whatever you can get. Get a 5th-round pick, get a cornerback for some depth, and move on if you're Philadelphia. Arizona should help them a lot on offense as if they needed it, right? Moving on from that, Tua Tagovailoa reportedly going to start this Sunday, possibly if everything goes well in practice today. My thing is this: if Tua Tagovailoa is back with the Miami Dolphins, is it possible that the Dolphins can make it back and be a competitive football team? I do think that is possible. Now, do I trust and believe in Tua Tagovailoa? Not necessarily, and it's a little bit of a unfortunate situation right now, because if you're the Miami Dolphins, you went out, you spent some money on cornerbacks, you went out, you got Will Fuller on offense, you drafted Jalen Waddle on offense, you were able to get all these offensive pieces, but ultimately, so far, as it's been right now in the NFL, so far for the Miami Dolphins, Tua has not looked like a no-question franchise quarterback. Now, if you don't remember, if you go back to that draft, Tua Tagovailoa was taken over Justin Herbert. And Justin Herbert pretty easily is everyone's favorite as the best young quarterback in the league. Easily everyone's saying he is the next great quarterback. He just has all these intangibles. He's tall, he's big, he has a deep ball. And so it kind of sucks if you're Miami to see this already happen so early, where Justin Herbert is so much more further along in his career than Tua Tagovailoa is. And the problem I have right now is that I have seen flashes from Tua when I watch some of my Miami games, but I don't really think that I've seen a flash where I go, oh yeah, he could definitely be your franchise quarterback. I think, yeah, there's flashes of him being like, maybe he could be a franchise guy. But it's very unfortunate right now what's happening with the Miami Dolphins. I'm a little bit of a fan of the Miami Dolphins, if I'm being honest with you. And I just say that because I kind of always root for them. I think they've been a bad team for a while. I kind of go, you guys got it. I like Brian Flores now. I'm a big fan of Byron Jones. He was a Dallas Cowboy for a while. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. So it's one of those things where watching what's happening with Miami, it kind of sucks because they have a good defense. They have a good coach. They looked good last year going 10-6 or whatever it was, not making the playoffs with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but ultimately feeling like maybe one off season with Tua will help him out. He'll come into this year and be a pretty good, solid squad. 1-4 start, not great, but the season's not over. There are 17 weeks left. I think if Tua could come in and obviously just play better than he's been playing, I really do think this team still has a chance to be competitive. The unfortunate reality for the Miami Dolphins is that they're in the same division as the Buffalo Bills. And so you go and you're in a division where it's wide open because Brady leaves, and now it's pretty much closed again because the Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen and a pretty good defense along with some good help around him. It's going to be a long time for Miami out there in the NFC. What is it? AFC East. In the AFC East. It's going to be a tough time for them competing with Buffalo. But we'll see. Can Tua come back? I don't know. He's got to win a lot of games. He's got to win a lot of games soon. So, upcoming on their schedule, the Miami Dolphins have the Jacksonville Jaguars actually, no, it's going to be in London. This game is going to be in London. So, if Tua is able to go back after practice and figure out if he's healthy enough to play in London, that'll be very interesting to see. Miami versus Jacksonville. It's a winnable game for Miami. If they lose that game without Tua, I think you definitely will see Tua in the following week, and we'll see if he can help turn this team around. But they got a long way to go, a lot of work to do out there in Miami. Moving on from that, Cleveland Browns, they've designated receiver Jarvis Landry from IR. But I told you guys, I'm going to tell you guys why I do not believe in the Cleveland Browns. And I feel bad about this because I think it sounds like I'm a hater. But shout out to one of our guys here on the Bench Sports app, Sam. He's a Cleveland Browns fan. I don't know if he's listening to the show or if he listens to the show ever, but if he ever gets a hold of this little snippet here, we have a bet going on. Sam is a Cleveland Browns fan. He's a Baker Mayfield believer, and he and I have a bet for $50, nothing crazy, that the Dallas Cowboys, my team, will go further this season than the Cleveland Browns. Now, we bet this before the season even started. And I told him ultimately the reason why we started having this little debate about what team is better, or just in general a little debate, is he got a little bit upset that I said I just don't believe in Baker Mayfield. Now that is my number one thing for the Cleveland Browns. I think they have a lot of issues. The Browns could definitely change a lot of different things. Maybe the linebacker play could be a little better. Maybe their cornerbacks could be a little more consistent, force a little more turnovers. Whatever you want to say, their issues are. They have issues on their roster for sure where you could say, okay, they need help here, and they need help here. But the most valuable position on the NFL field is the quarterback. And I think pretty much, if not the number one, top 3 issue for the Cleveland Browns is who's playing quarterback for them. Now, I don't want to disrespect Baker Mayfield at all. I don't want to sit here and say Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield is a solid quarterback. I don't think he's a backup quarterback in the league. I think he's a solid starting quarterback in the league. The problem is this roster is absolutely stacked. You have 2 running backs who are basically starting running backs in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and they're legit former starter. Both started in the NFL, both started games, not because of injury, because they were starters at one point in their careers. Both legitimately solid starting running backs. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. I'm not sure how healthy they are right now, but they are one of the best offensive lines in the league. They have great receivers, right? You have Odell Beckham Jr. and now Jarvis Landry coming back healthy. You have Austin Hooper, a big-time tight end they paid a lot of money to. Say what you want about Austin Hooper. Oh, Austin Hooper isn't getting open. Maybe he's not. Whatever you want to say about in Cleveland and what they're saying about Austin Hooper, before he went to Baker Mayfield, he was one of the best tight ends in the league, and he's kind of fallen off a cliff since entering Cleveland. They also have David Njoku, a top draft pick, a good young tight end at some point in this league. Hasn't really made much noise out there in Cleveland. So I think, yes, this offense has talent. This offense has a good line, a good running game. All you really need Baker Mayfield to do is kind of be this little game manager, if you will, and make some plays here and there. I think Baker Mayfield is a playmaker. I think he can make plays, but that's not what Cleveland really needs him to do too much of. And right now, for some reason, Cleveland still can't really figure out what it is they need to do with Baker Mayfield. I think if you were able to kind of rein him in a little bit, not let him make these big-time throws where he's throwing interceptions, turning the ball over, or just not really being accurate with the ball, I think ultimately Baker is kind of what's holding them back right now in Cleveland. Can they figure this out? Yes, I think they can. Baker's a good quarterback. He's a starting quarterback in the league. I think he can figure this out. But when it's all said and done, If I had to say a reason why Cleveland is not really going to be a trustworthy team down the stretch, especially when it comes down to playoff games, it's going to be Baker Mayfield. And that's going to be the issue when it's all said and done. And that's where I'm at right now with Cleveland. You guys let me know if I'm wrong, though. There's something else going on in Cleveland that's making it so they can't win playoff games. They've only had a couple of seasons with a good enough team to compete in the playoffs. I totally understand that. So I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, it's all Baker's fault. It's all Baker's fault. No. But I think the reason why I'm not trusting them when it's down the stretch, week 17, and we're talking about, the playoffs and the structure and who they're playing. When it's all said and done, week 1 of the playoffs, week 2 of the playoffs, I just don't see Cleveland being a legitimate NFL Super Bowl contender, and that's where I'm at. They'll win a lot of games this regular season. I think they'll win some games, and they'll compete. They had a really good competitive game against the LA Chargers. But Baker is what's going to be the downfall for this roster. At the end of the day, he's going to be what's holding them back. There's a reason why the Browns have not signed him to a long-term deal. And that's where it's at right now. If Baker does not win this year, win a playoff game, I don't think Cleveland re-signs him. And that's where I'm at. We'll see if that happens. We'll see if that's true. A little bit of a hot take, if you will. You guys let me know how you guys feel about that. For sure, hit me up on social media. Moving on from that, as I'm trying to search for a drink real quick because I didn't put a drink right next to me and I'm a little bit thirsty. So let me open this fridge real quick. But moving on from that, shout out to Body Armor. Shout out to my girlfriend, by the way. She really likes Body Armor. And she was offended that I took a sip of a Body Armor and I wasn't in love with it. It's a good drink. Not going to be my go-to, but it's a good drink. Quick little Body Armor break. No, not a sponsor, but shout out to Body Armor. Moving on from that, though. Talking about the biggest story here. I had to take a sip for this one because I'm going to talk a lot. Jon Gruden is officially out as the Las Vegas Raiders coach. Now, for those who don't know and haven't really been paying attention to what's going on, Jon Gruden, a story came out that Jon Gruden was sending emails. It was a private kind of email sent through to a high-ranking exec for an NFL organization. Jon Gruden was working for ESPN at this time. And he was sending an email talking about an African-American man, something with the Player Association. I can't remember exactly who it was that he was talking about, but basically making a racist remark about this person. Now, at first, I think a lot of people were like, well, it's a 2011 email. It's not a big deal. He made a racist remark or a racist joke. It sucks, but it is what it is. He'll be fine. And then we have the next day, it's announced and released that Jon Gruden has said a lot of negative things about a lot of things that you can't really be too negative about in today's world, this more progressive world, if you will. I'm not trying to be negative on that and bash that at all. I'm trying to say, in today's climate, we all know it, we see it, the cancel culture, whatever it is, you definitely cannot be a person who's on the wrong side of every single point. He's on the wrong side saying racist remarks. You cannot say racist things. Even if you're being joke, lighthearted, funny, it's not funny anymore. You know what I mean? It's never been funny. But it's not allowed. And we're definitely calling it out now. Stop trying to act like it's just funny to be racist. It's not funny to be racist, right? So racist jokes, can't do that. Or racist remarks in general, can't do that. You can't speak negatively about women refs just because they're women, right? You could speak about refs officiating any way you want, but if you want to just overgeneralize women and say all women suck at reffing, it's because she's a woman. You can't do that, right? Sexist. You can't make homophobic remarks about not drafting homosexual players, not interacting with homosexual players, and whatever it is. He's made remarks about that. He pretty much had the wrong opinion on every opinion he made or he had, right? And so it was an issue for sure. And this spanned over, I think, about from 2011 to like 2018, about 7-8 years. I'm sure there are more emails. I'm sure there's more years of him saying that. I'm sure over his lifetime, Jon Gruden has said some ridiculous and crazy things. And that's where it's at. The NFL, the Vegas Raiders, they had to do something about this because of, obviously, publicity and because of the simple fact that what he did was inexcusable. They had to act. They had to do something. So they decided to kind of a forced resignation, I think, at the end of the day. Now, a lot of people have been having opinions about this. A lot of people have been coming out immediately and saying, well, if we checked everyone's emails, everyone would be freaking out. Now, I just think it's like such an older generation thing. Like, it's like, no, if you checked my emails, you would not find anything. If you checked my emails, you would find a lot. You would just find a lot of B-dubs coupons. You would find a lot of work emails. You would find a lot of school emails. I mean, I don't use my email to communicate with anybody. I mean, unless I'm talking to a professor, unless I'm talking to work, I don't use my email to communicate with anybody. So it's kind of funny that it's not funny. It's not a funny situation at all. But the whole email thing specifically, no, if you check my emails, I'd be fine. I'm not sweating at all if you check my emails. But one thing that somebody said, not just somebody, the quarterback for the Vegas Raiders, he came out and said this. And I actually really respect Derek Carr. I've always respected Derek Carr. I think he is not only one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league in terms of speaking and carrying himself as an NFL quarterback, he is not only one of the best at doing that, he seems like just a genuinely good person who cares about people and who cares about football and just a really all-around great guy, he seems like, in my opinion. Great leader for his team. I've always thought highly of Derek Carr. I think he is a franchise quarterback. Now, is he the best franchise quarterback out there? Probably not, but he's a franchise quarterback and I think he deserves any success he gets in his career. He came out and he was speaking on this, and I actually really like the way he put this. You know, many people may disagree with this, but he said, I love the person, but you hate the sin, right? Love the person, but I hate the sin. And the reason why he was saying that is because he's saying, look, I've worked alongside Jon Gruden for years. I've sat next to him, talked to him, grown to know his wife, his kids. And I've always said that you can't really expect, like, yes, you could have close friends who do some crazy things, and maybe it can bother you, make you want to end the friendship, sure. But ultimately, you grow a loving and care for someone so much so that you go, well, maybe they're not this person ultimately, or maybe they're, you know, whatever it is, whatever they do wrong, I still have love for this person. That happens, right? For sure, that happens, I think, in everyone's life. And so, yes, it's unfortunate. Yes, it sucks that, you know, this is the situation, and you definitely hate what Jon Gruden did. But I'm not mad at Derek Carr for saying that he loves him as a person. I think that's what makes this so complicated. And it's not really complicated. Jon Gruden's career is over. There's not really no complexity to that, right? His career is over. He's never going to work again in the NFL. Any capacity, he's not working again, ever. And I just think that's going to be true for sure. Because you have a guy who was a grown man, worked in the NFL. Because this is my biggest thing about this. Everyone goes, 2011, he wasn't an NFL coach yet, whatever. And even if it didn't leak, it did leak into him being an NFL coach. He was sending emails while he was a coach. But even if it didn't leak into him being an NFL coach, him sending emails while he was an NFL coach, it doesn't matter. He was a coach at some point in time. He still had these opinions back then. He just was saying his opinions in 2011 when he wasn't working in the NFL as a coach. And that's what it was. So I just think there's no excuse for it either way. And it's so bad what he said. And I think what makes this whole situation very difficult is that a lot of people love Jon Gruden. A lot of people like Jon Gruden as a football coach. A lot of people like Jon Gruden's personality. A lot of people think he's inspiring, whatever it is. And so it's very hard because of that. I think a lot of people are having these weird emotions about it. I'll say this. I don't really have a love or affection for Gruden that much because he's never coached any of my teams. I never really I wasn't never a crazy fan of him. But I will say this. It is what's hardest about this situation is not that I feel bad for Jon Gruden losing his job. It's not that I feel bad for Jon Gruden having to resign. What I feel bad for is the fact that we have somebody like this in the NFL. The fact that we had somebody like this for so long in the NFL, someone to make an impact in the NFL at the level in which he made the impact, and have these opinions at the same time, and have these behind-the-scenes feelings and emotions about certain things. These aren't his just opinions. These are negative feelings and backwards thought processes when it comes to a man leading a group of men to a common goal. This guy who was doing that for years, successfully, by the way, back in Tampa, by his Tampa Bay days, and still had these opinions in the back of his mind or in his personal, private meetings and conversations. He's had crazy opinions. And that's the hardest thing, is that he's not the only one. Jon Gruden is not the only guy in the NFL to have these thoughts and opinions. He's one of the ones who got caught. And it just sucks because that reality makes it hard. The reality of, hey, you could be a fan of somebody, almost idolize an athlete, idolize a coach, whatever, and then it comes out that this person is a horrible human being. You know what I mean? And it really sucks. It just sucks that the reality of that, it sucks that we have to see a guy who a lot of people loved and appreciated now have to be torn down, have to be taken off out of honestly out of NFL history almost. No one's gonna take away what he did for Tampa Bay. No one's gonna take away what he did in success as a coach. But you kind of gotta now take a step back and tear things down and go, well, we can't even really mention Jon Gruden without an awkward eyebrow raise now because of what he did and what he said and his opinions. And that sucks because a lot of us want to just talk about the NFL. A lot of us want to talk about football and appreciate football for what it is. And the fact that this is always going to be a constant thing going on until the end of time, probably, it's frustrating. And it is what it is. And that's what's sad. It's sad that he had these opinions. And it's sad that now everyone else around Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to awkwardly go, okay, well, we're going to remove him from the Ring of Honor. Everyone else has to go around, former teammates, former players of Jon Gruden have to go around now and be put in these situations where now we're having a conversation about racism and what's right and what's wrong because our coach couldn't be a normal, decent human being. You know, and that's where it's at, you know. A lot of people, Derek Carr came out and said, look, if everyone wanted to check texts and emails and personal conversations, I think a lot of people will be sweating. I agree with that. And that's what sucks, is that a lot of people now, too, are very judgmental nowadays, for sure. And you know, I think, again, Jon Gruden deserves to lose his job, and no one's, I think, questioning that. But yeah, it's hard. The whole personal conversation thing is hard. Because I've always said that. Like a couple years ago, we had the rookie Jake Fromm come out of college, go to Buffalo Bills, and immediately somebody was sending screenshots of a conversation they had with this quarterback, and it was horrible. It was horrible, white supremacy kind of. I forgot exactly what he texted. I think it was like guns are for the elite white. He was obviously making a joke, right? A bad, tasteless, horrible, not funny, weird joke? Yes. But I think we all make weird, bad, ugly, not pretty, not PR jokes in our private time. You know what I mean? And I think that's, a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't do that. Shout out to people who don't do that. But a lot of people do that. And I think that's what makes this a little more complex as well, the whole private conversation thing, the private email thing. But ultimately, again, I am not upset with the ultimate decision to move on from Jon Gruden as a coach. It makes sense for everyone involved. I think Derek Carr spoke well on the situation, and it is what it is. You know, it's just kind of one of those situations where it sucks. It sucks not because we feel bad for Jon Gruden. It sucks because someone like Jon Gruden, of Jon Gruden's power and fame, was able to get away with this for such a long time, you know, and I think that's where it's at for me. So moving on from that, just about a minute left in the show. We'll go over really quickly the winners for this upcoming week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they beat the Eagles last night. I would have guessed that for sure. So moving on to the Sunday games, London. Why do they have games at 6:30 in the morning in London? It's only an 8-hour time difference. Just have it at 10 a.m. It'll be like 6 p.m. over there in London. Just have that happen. Anyways, 6:30 a.m. in London, we have the Miami Dolphins versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether or not Tua plays, if it's Jacoby Brissett or not, I'm going to go ahead and say the Miami Dolphins actually win that game. We'll go ahead and say Vikings at 10 a.m. versus the Panthers in Carolina. I'm going to go ahead and say Carolina gets back to business and gets a dub against Minnesota. I think Dalvin Cook is a full participant in practice, but ultimately I don't know if he'll play. I'm going to go ahead and say pick Carolina. Chargers, Ravens, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Ravens to win that game. It's going to be a close one. Herbert's going to play well, but I think ultimately the Ravens come out with a win. Rams at the New York Giants. I'm going to go ahead and say the Rams dominate this game. Hopefully for my fantasy team, we have a Matthew Stafford balled out game. Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts, 10 a.m. I have the Colts winning that game. The Texans are just a little far off still from winning games. Going on to continue with the 10 a.m. games, Kansas City Chiefs versus the Washington football team. Chiefs, I think, win fairly easily. We'll see if that happens as The Chiefs have not looked very pretty recently, but they need to win a game like this versus the Washington football team. Green Bay Packers versus Chicago Bears. I'm going to go ahead and say the Packers win the game. It'll be a close one, though. Bengals at Detroit. Bengals win again. Detroit loses again. Detroit stays just defeated, never winning a game. Cardinals versus Browns. I'm going to go ahead and say the Cardinals win the game versus Cleveland in Cleveland. Arizona just seems to be too good right now, in my opinion. They were improved to 6-0. Cowboys at New England Patriots. It'll be a cold game, I'm sure. I don't know the weather exactly in New England. It'll be cold, probably. I'm going to go ahead and say the Cowboys win the game. Kind of close, low-scoring game. I'm going to say the Cowboys win the game, though. Raiders, Broncos. Raiders in this weird situation. I think they're a little bit thrown off. I think the Broncos win a home game in Denver. Division rivalry as well, so I think that defense kind of balls out. Raiders lose the game. Broncos win in that one. Sunday Night Football, Seahawks, Steelers. I'm going to go ahead and say the Steelers win the game. No Russell Wilson. Geno Smith just can't get it done against that Steelers defense. Monday Night Football, Bills at Tennessee. I'm going to say the Tennessee Titans actually surprise and win a close game against Buffalo. And we have conversations about how good Buffalo really is. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It'll be a close game. Tennessee surprises and wins the game Monday night. A little bit of a surprise there, I know. A little bit of a risky one. I'm going to say Tennessee wins the game. That's going to do it for me for today's show, guys. If you guys enjoyed the show, top of the morning logo and all that, being involved, let me know for sure on social media at Josh__G. Come back next Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I'll be back and hopefully be back on Mondays pretty soon as well. I'll see you guys next week. See if my predictions are right as well. Let me know if you guys have any topics over the next week or so you guys want me to talk about. Again, hit me up on social media. That's going to do it for me on today's show, guys. Hope you guys have a great day. Have a great rest of your morning. I'm out of here.